Welcome to the Stay Ready Real Estate Podcast, where we stay ready so you don't have to get ready. My name is Emeka, and I'll be interviewing a variety amount of professionals in the real estate industry to help you buy your first real estate investment. At the end of each podcast, I'll give you 3 actionable steps that you can do today in order to get you 1% closer to buying your first property. My goal with this real estate podcast is to show the world like people like you and me buy properties to build wealth. Today we have Alejandro Ramirez. He's a mechanical engineer working in the oil and gas industry with a huge passion for commercial real estate investing. He started in 2019 and stayed very active, and his focus is value-add properties, which he can execute a business plan, remodel a property, and bring up rents to market value. He also wants to eventually get into developing 100 multifamily units. Let's listen to Alejandro. All right, Alejandro, can you tell the world a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, hey everybody. My name is Alejandro Ramirez. I am basically a real estate investor. I'm also an engineer. I still have my W-2 job. I work in the oil and gas. I mainly came to the United States in 2007 to learn English. Fast forward, I'm here in Houston. I have a family, I'm married. I have 2 kids. We have 2 kids. And yeah, we're doing a lot of real estate right now.
Beautiful, beautiful. So you went from engineering to real estate. So what brought you into the real estate game with the engineering background?
Yeah, so basically, I had this friend in school, and we used to go to the gym together. And one day, I'm in Houston, so he's in San Antonio, and he started posting about doing apartments and doing real estate. And I was like, well, wait a minute, this guy, we graduated together. How come, he's doing all of this real estate? He must have so much money now, so let me talk to him. So I went and talked to him, and he's like, yeah, I'm doing a lot of real estate. I'm not really putting any of my money down. And I was like, well, how are you doing that? It's like he gave me a few books to read, a few books of, kind of beginners books for real estate, kind of like bigger pockets books. And I read those, and then I got hooked, man. Ever since, I started reading a lot of books, listening to podcasts, and, talking to people and stuff like that. So, yeah, so I spent kind of, half of 2019 just learning, reading, and then in 2020 is when I started kind of taking some action. And yeah, so that's how I kind of got started.
Interesting. So in 2019, that's also when I got started. I was working a W-2 job. I was, working 44 hours a week. And
Yeah.
it just didn't make sense. It was like, I'm supposed to work like this, work like a dog for, 40 more years and then retire and have freedom when, my 20s and 30s are supposed to be my prime. It just didn't make sense. So I actually, in 2019, I started reading. And then a year later, literally, I bought a single family home. So it took you about a year to buy your first investment. What was that investment for you? Was it a single family home? Did you go straight into multifamily, or what'd you do?
So I went straight to commercial multifamily. Honestly, I didn't really know what I was doing, to be honest with you. I had this friend, and he was kind of guiding me through the process. He was very busy at the time, and I just didn't want to kind of bug him a lot. So I was kind of doing it all on my own, learning as I went. And my first deal was basically a 7 unit here in Houston. So this deal was in the east side of town, and it was a 7 unit. All of the units were basically efficiencies. It was a very bad area. So obviously I didn't want to keep that one for myself, but I was trying to wholesale it. But long story short, that deal was basically, I put it under contract for way too much and ended up not selling it. Basically COVID hit, and then the owner was a bit older, so he told me at some point, this virus, it's really dangerous. I don't really want any more people in my property. So we just need to kill this, Alex. And it was a learning experience at first. I kind of was disappointed because obviously I wanted to close. It was my first deal. And after that, I kind of got disappointed. I started questioning myself about whether or not I wanted to continue, doing real estate. But talking to to few people, they told me, hey, well, you didn't sell it, but obviously you learned a lot, right? You learn how to talk to a seller, you learn how to use a contract, you learn how to talk to buyers, you learn how to underwrite. So all of those skills, man, you can basically use that to your next deal, and you're gonna get better and better. So that's
That was
exactly what I
beautiful.
did, man.
You said you didn't sell it, so what happened with the 7 units?
So it didn't. It fell through. So the seller basically was, we cut out the contract, and so the seller just kept the property for himself. Just, yeah,
So you tried to wholesale it.
yeah. I did try to wholesale it,
Okay.
but it didn't work out.
No
So
problem. Like I said, it was like you said, it was a learning experience. So how long
exactly.
from then until you got your next property, and what was your next property?
So it was. It probably took me about, I will say, probably about 4 months maybe to get my next property. So my next property was really interesting. So I did a marketing campaign. I sent letters to all of these owners, absentee owners, and I think part of those leads were vacant properties as well. So my second deal was basically a 9-unit apartment complex in Liberty, Texas. So this Liberty, Texas is kind of like northeast of Houston. It's a good little town. It's got a Walmart, it's got an HEB and stuff like that. So the seller called me and he said, "Hey, I got your card, I got your letter, and I am ready to sell. I cannot keep this property anymore." So that property was basically the most challenging property I've ever actually owned. And the reason why I say that is because this property was an industrial. It was industrial. It was like a warehouse, and the seller was trying to convert that into multifamily. So he started the process. He actually got some of the units, subdivided, and he did some framing. He put some work into the property. So the owner actually ran out of money, lost his job, and got really behind in taxes. There was so much distress from this seller, and he basically just said, "You know what? Just pay the taxes and give me some money, and then we'll call it a day." So we ended up, buying that property for $61,500.
Oh
That was the
wow.
second property.
So that's pretty cheap for a 9 unit. And do you still have that
Yes.
property today?
No, we actually got rid of it. So what ended up happening is that was my second deal. So obviously I was not familiar with any construction, or I don't have a real estate or construction background. So what I did is I went and found a partner. I didn't really know anybody, so I had to just kind of go with, the first person that I basically met, because I didn't go to meetups or anything like that. So I went to Bigger Pockets, talked to a few people, and ended up going with this guy. He said that he was gonna bring his contractor, and he appeared to be experienced to me. And yeah, so anyways, he was very busy at the time. He was a realtor as well. So long story short, we basically had that property for a year, and so we went back after a year. Obviously, we're kind of keeping communication with the contractor, but we honestly, that was kind of like something we learned, right? So in this real estate business, you have to be proactive. You just continue to look on your properties, you go check on the contractors and everything. That's something you have to do on a daily basis. And so that was one of the biggest mistakes that we made on that one. So we barely checked on the contractor. So he kind of took advantage of us. After a year, he barely did anything. He completed just, I think, framing, some rough plumbing, and some rough electrical, and a little bit of HVAC. And that was done in a year. So obviously we're sitting in a Harmony loan, paying interest only. And yeah, so after a year, I say, you know what, we just need to sell this property. We're losing money. So we ended up putting it on the market, and that property sold as is for $290,000. So we still made money as
Oh yeah.
is. So yeah, we still made six figures, and we got paid to basically learn. So that was really good. That was the second deal.
That's amazing. So your second deal,
Yeah,
still barely any experience, no construction background. You met a partner, the first person you basically met on Bigger Pockets, and he did you dirty, and you still were able to make a six-figure check. The power of real estate is
that's right.
amazing. And I want to
That
actually go
is
back,
right.
go yeah, I want to go to your home run. So we talked previously, and I saw a picture of a very nice check that you received. So can you tell us a little bit about that property? Can you tell the audience how you found it, what you did with it, and why was it so great?
Yeah, so basically this property, it's a 12-unit apartment complex. It was built in the 60s. It's basically six duplexes together. Again, we do a lot of DTS, so direct to seller. And so we sent a bunch of letters. We found this property through direct mail. So yeah, seller called and he said, he was getting ready to sell. He was getting ready to retire. And yeah, so I went and checked the property, talked to the seller. We hit it off, man. And obviously we didn't put the property on the contract that day because he had he had a lot of people looking at the property. It's a nice property. Obviously, had a lot of potential, and it took me a while to kind of nurture the relationship with the seller, and finally able to make him go with me, right? So because he had a lot of people,
What
and that's what you gotta do in this business, right? Go ahead.
I'm gonna say, what's a while for you? So you said it was a while, so like 1 month, a week, 2 months, 2 years.
Yeah, it probably took about 3 or 4 months to finally, convince him to sell to me. And so I was constantly calling him, every couple of weeks, every week, couple of weeks, just kind of following up where we're at. But yeah, this is, in real estate, that's sometimes that's what's gonna take, right? So it's, for a seller to sell to you, obviously is mainly about a personal relationship. At the end of the day, if a seller likes you, he's gonna sell to you regardless of, I guess I will say price, but it does count sometimes. But if you have a personal relationship with somebody, they will sell to you instead of somebody that, they don't really know. Even if they're, offering a little bit more money, they're still gonna go with you because there's a personal relationship, there's a personal bond. So that's what I learned about real estate, that, you have to, create relationships with sellers. And, even if they're not ready to sell, they might be ready in, a few months, right? So, yeah, so that's what we did. So he finally decided to sell. So we bought this property for 30,000 a unit. So that was basically 360,000 for all of the units, the 12 units. We we funded this through Harmony as well. So the Harmony lender did an appraisal. They said I could fully stabilize the property for $700,000. That was the appraisal. And so they funded the purchase price of the property, and they also gave me about 130,000 of capex to go fix the property. So obviously that was not enough. This property was six units were completely gutted, and six other units, were really outdated and old. They had tenants in there, bad tenants. So we went and like slowly we started to kind of, kick the tenants out. We had to evict some. And so at the end of the day, we actually ended up spending about $200,000 for the rehab on this property. And we actually just cashed out refi this property. We fully stabilized it last month in December. So we went full cycle, right? It so we went with another bank, and so they ordered an appraisal after it was all said and done. The property appraised for $1.025 million. So it was a $700,000 loan. So obviously when it was all said and done, we got a fat check. It was a $204,000 check, and we still left about 325,000 of equity in the deal. So that's what I call a home run. Obviously, at this point it's infinity returns, right? So in my eyes, I got paid I got back my 70K, and I also got a lot more, and I also left a lot of equity. So I basically got paid to own a fully stabilized asset, and it's completely remodeled. It looks really nice. I think I sent you some pictures. We're happy that property stays 100% occupied. We have a waiting list of people that want to live there. Property is still cash flows in this environment. So we refi at 8.31 interest rate, and the property produces about $11,000, a little bit over a month of gross income. Expenses are around 7,000. So we cash flow about 4K a month still with obviously 8.31 interest rate. So when interest rates go down, then we're gonna cash out refi again, and we're gonna pull some equity out again. So this was a really good deal.
So you got a hard money loan for 700,000. They made you put 70,000 down, so that's how much cash you put in.
Yes, so the way it works, they give you 70% of the ARV, which is 700,000. So they gave me about almost $500,000 for this property, right? So I used $360,000 for closing, and the remaining was basically to do the rehab. So they did not ask me to put almost anything down. So the 70K came basically after I ran out of money with the rehab. So I basically had to put some of that money from my own pocket, if that makes sense.
No, it does, and I want to let the audience know because most of the people listening are probably newer and trying to get into it. So you
Yes.
refinanced after you fixed the property up, the property that you put $70,000 down for the rehab, and you got a check for how much again?
204,000.
So you
Two
got a
hundred four
check for
thousand
two
dollars
hundred and four thousand dollars and tax free. I'm not an accountant.
tax
We're
free.
not lawyers or anything. So all of this is educational, but it's tax free because you didn't sell the property. You refinanced the property, and not only you refinanced it, you still have about you said 300 and something thousand dollars of equity.
$325,000 of equity in the deal. So
Yep.
if I
So
were to sell today, I will basically still make money, right? I still have $325,000 of equity in the deal.
and all the money that you put in the deal, you already got back. So you mentioned it was an infinite return. So it's it's amazing. The power of real estate is just phenomenal. I'm sure there's someone out there who's going to say they can do that with like the stock market, but I doubt it won't be as fun as this way. And with the stock market or anything, whenever you try to sell, you're going to get taxed a lot as well. But you just got a $204,000 check for free, and then not only that, the real estate is still paying you 4,000 net cash flow a month. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
people out there who don't really know where to start. What advice would you give for those people who don't know where to start?
I would say just get started, start reading, start going to meetups, start hanging out with people that, you know, have done it before. That was one of my biggest mistakes, right? So I try to do everything on my own, and I messed up, or I had a lot of failure when I started. So if I would have gone with somebody that already knew the game, you know, honestly, chances are, I wasn't gonna fail as much, right? So I will suggest people to kind of reach out to, people that has done it, and maybe, bring a deal to them, or I don't know that if you have the finances or some money to invest, add some value to that people so they can teach you, take you under their wing. And so with that, you can learn so much, and then after that, you can go do it on your own. That's all you gotta do. Educate yourself,
Amazing.
take action. That's it.
I love it. And what's your goal with everything? Because, I truly believe you just can't do this willy nilly. You have to have a goal and a why. So, what's yours?
So my goal is basically, I have a lot of goals, but my goal in real estate is basically to develop multifamily. I want to develop probably 100 units or 200 units and just own that myself. That is my goal. I have a lot of goals as well, family goals, marriage goals, health goals. That is basically my goal in real estate. I wanna be able to, you know, first of all, replace my W-2 income because I still have my W-2 job, which I could probably quit already. But I think I'm gonna wait until the end of this year, and I think that's when I'm gonna make it happen. So this year is gonna be a big year for me. We're hustling. We're trying to get a lot more property under contract. So first goal, short term, is replace my income, and then long term goal is be able to help family, friends get into the game, contribute to basically our church and all other people. Also, one of my goals this year is to help 10 people that are just starting real estate. So last year was five. And so I help people, completely free. So if you're a newbie, if you want to, get started, reach out to me. I'll help you. I'll drop my contact information here. And yeah, so
Amazing, amazing. And have you developed any habits that helps you keep going?
yes, it's habits are really important. If I can suggest, people read the Miracle Morning book, that's exactly what I do every morning. So it's basically a series of habits that you do in the morning, just affirmations, visualizations, exercise. I meditate a lot. I love, exercising as well. What's really important too is, and for your audience, for the people that are just, getting started, is that, you know, the mind is just like a muscle, right? So and so being an entrepreneur, you don't have a boss, right? You don't have anybody to tell you what to do. You don't have anybody to tell you, hey, you're basically not doing work today. So you're on your own, right? So you have to basically train your mind every single day that you're on a mission, right? You have a big why, right? So and that's one other thing, that you have to have a big why, right? If money is just your big why, that's not good enough, right? So you have to have a big why. So so basically, yeah. So in the morning, you have to basically write down your goals, review your goals, meditate, and tell your mind, you're on a mission every single day. And so if you do that, you're gonna, remember that you're on a mission. You're not gonna get, sidetracked. So that will help you keep yourself accountable as well. So writing down your goals, and having reviews, right? So having maybe an accountable partner, right, that's going to hold you accountable if you're not accomplishing those goals. So it's really important for you to have your goals written down and clear, and have a vision board, and be able to see that every single day is so important, because it's a reminder that you're on a mission.
I love that, and the audience will too. So right now we're going to move on to the next segment of the show where I ask everybody the same three questions that I prepped you for. So the first question, if you could recommend two books for the inspiring investor, what would they be?
So I will probably say the first book that I recommend is Six Habits of Growth by Brendan Burchard. This is actually a free book if you have like an Amazon account. It's an Amazon, it's an Audible. It's an amazing book. It talks about, motivation, focus, confidence, basically kind of like a morning routine, but it's a really, really good book. It's not about real estate, it's about self-development, self-improvement. The other one, it's Failing Forward by John, I think it's John Maxwell. So there's a point in my life where basically I experienced a lot of failure in real estate, just because, like I said, I was trying to do it all on my own, which I don't recommend. Find somebody that has done it. And so that book really tells you that failure is really, really part of success. If you look at, people like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and all of those people, they failed a lot before they saw success. So failure, it is part of success. So really good book to read.
Amazing. Second question is, what has been the most impactful speech or lesson that helped you in your career?
So I will say lesson. I will say keep going. There's so based on my experience in real estate, like I say, I had A few situations here and there where, I wanted to quit just because I was not seeing results. But just remember this business, real estate, it's just slow. It's really slow. So I will say to everybody, keep going. Don't give up. For this 12 unit deal, it took me a year. It took us a year and a half to kind of get it fully stabilized. We had to go through so many contractors. We had to deal with so many things with the city that, sometimes we were like, you know what, let's just get rid of this property. But, we kept going, and at the end it paid off, right? So we got a $204,000 check, right? So keep going, guys.
And people are forgetting you're still making $4,000 a month off that net. So.
Exactly. It's worth it. It's worth
it. It is worth it. Last question is, if you could have dinner with anybody dead or alive, who would it be and why?
I would probably say Tony Robbins. Why? Because I'm a big fan. Tony Robbins has changed my life. I've actually attended a few of his seminars, and it's just life changing, man. The way that he changes you and your family and the way you are, and in every single aspect of your life, it's very impressive and amazing. So if I can suggest everybody something, is that if you don't know Tony Robbins, right, find out who he is, and read about him, read his books, attend his seminars if you can. It's going to completely transform your life.
Well, Alejandro, thank you so much for joining the show, and I hope to have you back at some point.
Yeah, thank you so much for the invite, and I hope everybody is doing great. I wish you the best of success, and thanks for having me on today.
That was Alejandro, everybody. At the beginning of the podcast, I told you I'll give you 3 actionable steps that you could do today to get you 1% closer to your property. Step 1, subscribe to Bigger Pockets. Alejandro did it. You can do it. It's free. Network with people and make sure you find like-minded individuals like you and see who's around your area or what realtors around your area that you can reach out to. After you do that, action step 2, schedule a meeting. It's nice to talk about scheduling or trying to get to it one day, but actually schedule it. Put it on the calendar. For me, if it's on the calendar, it never happened. And number 3, subscribe to a brokerage or some kind of account that gives you regular updates of what's going on in the economy and in the real estate world. For an example, CBRE is one of them that I subscribe to. They give quarterly updates and annual updates, so I can kind of get an idea of what's going on around the market. See you next Wednesday. Have a good one.